Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Joanne Rutkowski, a professor of music education at the Pennsylvania State University. And I'd like to talk with you today about helping all children learn to sing. Yes, all children can learn to sing. Singing is actually very natural. And if it's nurtured when we're younger, the singing voice develops. We see this in a lot of cultures where singing is part of the culture. If everybody learns to speak, they learn to sing. So all children can speak and all children can sing. That's the first thing you need to really wrap your head around, is that all children can learn to sing. However, if the singing voice is not nurtured appropriately when children are young, and I mean from birth through kindergarten or first grade, we need to provide some intervention as music teachers. I used to call this remediation, but I like the word intervention a little bit better. We're not trying to fix something. We're trying to intervene and help the natural development. What I find is that children develop habits of speaking, and of course speech is very important to young children, so they develop habits of speaking. And if you even notice my voice now, we tend to speak in the lower part of our voice. We tend to speak low. And so children try to use that voice when they're singing. And that's why they have trouble singing. So we need to intervene. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some strategies for intervening. I have two examples for you of Randy. And the first example is Randy at the beginning of first grade. And he's singing after a teacher, and they're using a neutral syllable. They're not using words. So you'll hear him singing bum, bum, bum at the beginning of first grade. Bum, 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 bum. 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 Now I have an example for you of Randy at the end of sixth grade. This really is the same boy. It's, 5 years later, and at the end of his sixth grade year before he's going off to junior high, and again they're singing on neutral syllable, not on words.
24. Dum dum dum. 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 Dum dum dum.
As music teachers and musicians, we often focus on accuracy of intonation. How well is somebody singing in tune? And that's a good thing. But with children having trouble singing and even adults having trouble singing, the accuracy is not the main issue. Focusing on sing this higher, sing this lower, that really doesn't help. It's the use of their voice that's the issue. And once a student or an adult can use all three registers of the voice, then accuracy of intonation can become a concern. There are three registers in the child voice, and I'm just going to give you an example of how my voice shifts between registers so you can hear what that sounds like. Listen for the quality change in my voice. I'm going to start in low, go to middle, and then finish in upper. So here's the low with the switch to the other registers. Could you hear that flip? Those are the registers. And learning how to flip those registers, and then of course how to disguise that flip, is what singers do. All the registers take a while to develop. Now, if children are nurtured in early childhood, their registers develop naturally. But when we're intervening, we need to help children learn how to access those other registers, and that takes time. Like most skills, takes time. Many children will sing in tune in some of their registers, but not in others, and that's normal. As they begin to access the middle or upper register, they might not know how to control it as much, and so their intonation might not be as good. Don't worry about it. Let the voice develop and let them get comfortable, and I think you'll see the intonation will come along. I do find, if you listen to children exploring singing voices, that they often will sing descending, patterns that go down first in tune, and generally descending triads, so not that steps, but more or bum, bum, bum. You'll hear those kind of patterns first, because obviously it doesn't take the refinement to sing that in tune as it would bum, 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 bum. Takes much more refinement. So how do we intervene with singing voice? Well, there's some principles that I've learned over the years, and I'm going to share those with you. The first is we have to get ready to sing. If we're in a classroom situation with children, we just shouldn't say to them, now we're going to sing. We have to get ready to sing. We need good posture, and we need to focus them away from using the throat. We need to focus on their posture and their breathing more than the throat. They want to do something here, and that actually restricts the vocal cords. It's more about breathing and posture. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of fancy breathing and posture techniques with first and second graders, but certainly, we're going to sing a song now. Everybody sit up nice and tall. Or, let's stand to sing this song because it will help you sing it better. Upper elementary and middle school children, we can talk about breathing and how we appropriately breathe, and then where the sound starts from, which is not here, but it starts from a good breath. So getting ready to sing is important. You need to provide a replicable model. So you need to use a light voice. If I sing in a very full voice, the only way a child can mimic that is in lower register. I tend to use my upper register most of the time when I'm singing for children. So rather than singing, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, I'll sing, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, in a light voice. Now, guys, I recommend you use your regular voice. You shouldn't be singing in falsetto all the time. But if children are not used to hearing that, then you might need to pop into a falsetto voice to get their voices established. But once the voices are established, then go back to your own register. You need to listen carefully to children when they're singing. And this is first grade and up. I don't sing with my students. I sing for them as a model, but I want them to gain the independence. And if I'm singing with them, I can't hear them. If I'm singing with them, it might sound pretty good. But when I'm listening to them, I can really hear what they're doing. So that's important. Listen carefully to what they're doing. Again, focus on use of voice, not intonation. Don't worry about, ooh, that note's higher. Or the melodic contour goes like this. Instead, use terminology like, use your lighter voice. Can you use more energy? I really avoid talking about loud singing. Loud singing with children will almost always move them into lower register. They need to have comfortable opportunities to sing in small groups and individually. Many of the research projects that I've conducted, we've found that if children are always singing in unison in a large group, a general music class of 25 children, they really don't learn to use their singing voices better. They need opportunities to hear themselves in a small group and also individually. Finally, it's important to sing songs because that's music, but it's also important to sing tonal patterns. If children are just mimicking songs, they don't often learn to use their singing voices as well as they might with a tonal pattern. Also, the research has been inconsistent about whether we should sing with words or whether we should sing with a neutral syllable. And I have found that some children do one better than the other. Although some children having difficulty singing, if they're using words, they tend to go back to that speaking voice. So I like to use the neutral syllable. For singing, I often use bum or who. I try to stay away from any of the solfege syllables that we use if we're using solfege syllables later. For example, la, because la is not really a neutral syllable. It happens to be the 6th scale degree if I'm in major, or the resting tone of minor. So do some tonal patterns, and again, descending is easier, and patterns that are triads are easier than those stepwise patterns. So, getting ready to sing. Words that I often use with young children. Sit up tall. I try to avoid sit up straight because that tends to be the wooden soldier. Sit up tall. Sit up taller. Stand up. Standing to sing should be something good to do, not a punishment. For breathing, I use some analogies. You know, you're filling up a balloon. You're expanding all the way around. So we're getting away from the shoulders. You also want to focus children from getting away from the sound starting in the throat. A glottal stop can occur if we do that, which is banging the vocal cords together, and it can be very detrimental to the health of the vocal cords. And also, if you try to start from the throat, you're restricting the vocal cords, which is a problem for getting in other registers. So get them to think about the sound actually starts here, and my throat is very open, and the sound is just going to come up and come out. I don't have those kind of conversations with 1st and 2nd graders. I focus more on posture, and a lot of that happens more naturally for the younger children. They haven't had as much time to develop bad habits. Controlling the breath. So I'm just not breathing and then pushing it all out, but I'm controlling my breath with all these muscles around here and getting children used to doing that. And you probably know some techniques that they don't feel too much air coming out here, that they can sing some patterns or sing a phrase of a song without taking a breath. But be very careful they don't control it here. It's all these muscles here. It's of course now appropriate to get the children vocalizing. And I always do descending first. That will become a theme you'll hear. And I start with non-pitch specific. So sighs and oohs, sirens, right? But I don't do a siren that's ooh. I start ooh and bring the upper register down. Because if you start lower, those kids only in lower register will give you ooh and they won't go anywhere. So starting up, ooh. The initiation of the sound comes from just a tiny little punch here. Ooh. Rather than ooh, which is from the throat. I often talk to my students about keeping their teeth apart. They can put their fingers here, they can put their hands here, to keep the teeth apart and let this resonate, and also to focus the sound better. Then, of course, we vocalize on specific pitches. And again, I told you this was a theme, descending patterns. I start with tonic triads. It can be in major or minor. Bum, bum, bum. I start higher and come down. It's important that you provide some tonal context for what they're doing. So you sing it first or you play on the piano first. You don't need to be singing again or playing with them. It's important to start above the upper register lift. So I often start, if I'm doing a descending triad, in the key of F or the key of G, which starts above that B flat and comes down. And then I work down. I find a lot of our choral warm-ups we do with younger choirs are actually backwards. We start lower and work up, and then we wonder why we have the 6th grade girl who says, I can't sing high. Well, because all she's doing is forcing lower register. Start higher and come down. Ooh, ooh, come down rather than go up. And I do use neutral syllable first to get the students away from, again, the speaking and the text. And I talked with you about neutral syllables, stay away from law. So remember that all children can learn to sing. It's important to focus on the registers they're using with their voice first, and that those are functioning comfortably before you focus too much on intonation. To get kids ready to sing, from a 1st grader, sit up tall, let's sit up tall so we can sing better, to actually working on more specific posture and breathing with a little bit older children. And to be sure to give children opportunities to sing in small groups and individually. They need to hear themselves and you need to hear them but do it in a comfortable, playful way and not, I'm singing a solo today. So I wish you luck with your children as you help them learn to sing. Remember, they can all learn to sing. Just give them time.